Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I mean, other than I think those are the issues of the day right now, and we covered them. So I'm glad that everybody got to contribute. Um, and Carol's
Okay,
not with us. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that Michelle Obama like ripped Trump a new asshole
It was
last night.
beautiful. She was beautiful. She was.
I'm
So
not even a Democrat, and I was like, "Woo, go girl!"
I want to point this out. All right, so you know how they have like the COVID bingo grid, where it's like sat on a Zoom call, didn't take a shower for a week, whatever. So we're gonna have a COVID cast bingo grid, and it's gonna be like Terry drops the F-bomb. Sanjay's dog barks. Sanjay or Terry professed to not being political before talking about Trump being an asshole. Somebody comes on as a panelist if it gets to MU, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with the other grid. And the middle box is going to be somebody says an H word.
Okay, so I have to let you in on a running joke that I've been giggling to myself about it all week. So Mont Udoshi Industries is the fictitious holding corporation, okay? And we have a number of shell corporations. So if it's nefarious, we're into it. Okay, our motto is if you're thinking global catastrophe, think Mont Udoshi Industries first, or think of us first, right? So, and then one of our unwritten bylaws is, now Terry and I are 50-50 partners. So one of our unwritten bylaws is that we invest in new things without telling the other partner. So, okay, so Terry will go and buy something, in Syria or in Myanmar or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll do something similar, like a North Korean cruise line, and so we post these back and forth on each other's pages, and I just have been giggling about it because, like, someone asked about the sign that I created. It's Trump, Pence in Cyrillic, in Russian, and on the bottom, instead of saying "Make America Great Again," it says "For Mother Russia" in Russian. And the small print is Mont Udoshi Industries, manufactured in North Korea. So we don't use proper labor. Okay, it has to be like Rohingya, or it has to be like Rohingya or Darfur. It has to be in a failed state. So our storefronts are in Mogadishu, Pyongyang,
Damascus.
Damascus.
You could run a cruise ship. You could run a cruise ship. Like,
well, we were doing. Mont
Liberia.
Udoshi has a cruise line going to Honduras.
Yes.
But we decided it has to be a failed state, or there won't be no entertainment.
Exactly. We're extremely libertarian. We refuse to obey any maritime laws, or it has to be,
Oh, we headquartered in Panama. We did it right.
Yes.
Somali pirate cruisers.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. No, we have ships out of Mogadishu.
What would be the name of the ship? The USS Am I Being Detained?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking. Hey, okay, guys. Hey, come on. I'm looking for an angel investor, and I'm only talking a few $100.
Okay.
I have an educational aid risk assessment that I designed. I have background in HIV prevention training, awareness training, and I have an artist that I want her to draw it for me to beautify it, turn it into something that can be used. But I need to pay her a few $100. So if I send this to you folks, to you, Sanjay, and to Terry to look at, can you review this and see if you will prepared
Yes.
to your company invest a few $100s in this.
Well, we are looking for
The
new,
artist is in
Gerda.
Alaska. That's
Gerda, we are looking for new things because it turned out our entire stock of hydroxychloroquine was in a warehouse in Lebanon, and now it's all gone. So
okay. Look, this artist. Here's my elevator talk. The artist lives in remote Alaska. She can see Russia from her porch.
Oh,
Sarah,
very
that's
good.
Sarah, that's Sarah Palin.
Oh, I had
My friend lives in Palmer. Yes, my artist biologist friend lives in Palmer.
I think there was a huge financial loss by not making branded MAGA masks. Like wear a mask to trigger a liberal. That would have been $1 million. I mean, $1 million idea. I don't know why they didn't do that. That sounds like a Munt Udoshi product right there.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
yeah.
You gotta cut out the middle of it though, and it's just MAGA around it. There's a big hole in the middle. So then it'll sell like hotcakes.
Our prototype was a jock strap,
Right.
okay, that you could, wrap around the ears.
I suggested boobs. I suggested like just boobs, like a woman's boobs on the mask, and I can just tell you, MAGA guys will buy it.
I think it's that lady that I linked earlier, the one that's stalking businesses. She had a picture of herself with just lingerie over her.
Yes. Now I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's just a very lacy, like totally
She cut
transparent.
out
Yeah.
lingerie and made it into a mask.
Mentos reopening stimulator.
That's good. That's good.
Awesome.
That's so true, David. Oh my God, it's so true.
That is very good today because I watched a bunch of Mentos experiments today just on YouTube.
The
I-
three
I
steps to
just,
reopening. Go ahead.
I think this is the election is so you have those people that are saying, this is all it's a media hoax, it's going to disappear after the election. And, they're so small at this point. Come on, Rob. Hi, babies. They're so small, this minority, but they've been made so loud.
Super vocal.
Huh? Yeah.
Super vocal.
It's the Tea Party lesson that they learned.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's very effective.
I follow Governor DeWine in Ohio Department of Health, and Catherine, you're in Cincinnati, so you've probably seen this as well if you're on Facebook at all. But within seconds of him posting anything, or the Ohio Department of Health posting anything, there's just a stream of you're making all this money off this mask mandate. You ask them, how is anyone making money off the mask mandate? They're like, go do your research, look it up. I'm like, did all these governors invest in fabric companies back in 2019 or something?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I have Matthew McConaughey's interview with Fauci, and I cut it up into little bits and put it on a resource page. And he comes out and he asks him, he's like, what are your investments in vaccines? He's like, I'm a government employee. I don't have any investments.
Right.
How
would you do that?
Yeah. So,
unlike the MyPillow guy who is actually invested in the Oleander product.
He is.
Right.
He is.
So, it's a very different stream, and after this Oleander, there's just going to be something else, like eat elm bark or something, it's just going to be, there's just going to be the next thing that they come out with. And, and
Well,
if you wear a cross while you're on an interview
Yeah.
and you're constantly pandering to the evangelical crowd, and I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying
that's
that
all it takes.
seems to be the case. If you're wearing a cross and you're saying very strongly, this is, I believe this, it just passes the muster and off they go.
Yep.
There will be oleander poisonings. I can.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah. And after, Sanjay, did you see the physician that spoke after the MyPillow?
Yeah, Dr. Reiner, Jonathan
Yeah.
Reiner. Yes.
So, and he did address that. He was like, I actually saw bleach poisonings. I took care of this in our ER.
Yeah.
So it is imperative that we tell people, do not do this, you know?
I feel bad.
There'll be YouTubes. Yeah, there'll be YouTubes of people chewing on the plant.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad when I see one of these guys that I know. I've like met Dr. Reiner at conferences and stuff like that, and they're on TV and they're doing it as a public service. They really are invested in the public good.
Absolutely.
And they're sitting there with their lab coat on. They have been seeing patients all day. They're not just academics.
Yeah.
And they have to sit there and go, listen, I can't believe I have to say this.
Terrible. My friend, Dr. Beth Liston, she's here in Ohio. So she's both a practicing physician. She does rounds in COVID wards to cover for physicians to give them time off.
Yeah.
She's actually also my state representative.
Oh.
So she was super frustrated like you with you spawned into this COVID cast. She was super frustrated with the Trump election and decided to do something about it and ran for office in a super Republican seat that it hasn't been flipped in years. She flipped it. So she's been representing my district in Ohio for the last 2 years, up for re-election again here this year. But you know, she says the same things. You know, she as a representative, she's been in the state house. She is a physician. She's on the health panels. She has all of her things that she's doing. And the Republicans that are in our state house just refuse vehemently to wear masks, practice any safe distancing. And the guy who was the House Speaker, Larry Householder, just recently brought down by the FBI for accepting $61 million in bribes to pass a $1.5 billion legislation to funnel money to First Energy, you know? And this is the guy that, I'm not wearing a mask. Yeah. After he was arrested and in prison, he comes out with his perp walk wearing an N95.
Yeah.
So it baffles me, you know, how people can still believe these things, you know, when put to the test, the people that are most vocal, these Trumpian politicians, they actually do know that the mask is they're just out there to pump people up and get money.
That's the ultimate con. And it infuriates me. Yeah. It infuriates me. There's one somewhat forgivable that you're ignorant or you're just not, you're not attentive. But then there's, he knows. And you're just doing it as a political stunt, as a tribal, identifier. So
100%.
And for the tribe, I think it was sort of what JJ was talking about last week. I mean, I was amazed when he kind of broke it down and said that, after 10 cards that people understood there's some sort of a problem, but they didn't act on it for maybe 30 more. And then after that, it's finally settled in to their brain, but the lag time was so long before people were actually ready to make a behavioral change.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's ever going to be with some of these folks. I think they're just...
Well, one thing that we saw is that this reminds me of two situations that we've seen recently politically. Stephen Scalise was on that softball field with all those other Republicans when that shooter came out.
Yeah.
And I don't recall if anyone died. I don't think anyone did, but there were some injuries. He was the most severely injured. Yeah. And his political stance has not changed. Politically, his stance has not changed. But can you imagine inside what he has gone through?
Yeah.
Those of us who have a deep sense of compassion, I guess, and conscience, if we are presented with the damage of one of our views being proven to be harmful to someone, it's horribly troubling, right? I don't know any simple examples to give, but if medically we, like my dad through his 35, 30 8 years in practice, prescribed medications that then turned out to be detrimental. You know, over a 12-year span, he had been prescribing something that he thought safe. It wasn't his fault. If he ever saw something negative in that patient, he would make the adjustment. But then he knew there were certain drugs that were not safe, so he wouldn't prescribe them. He was told by others that he trusted that it was safe and was something that was safe, and then he prescribed them as a group think, you know. Then 12 years later, they realize, oh my God, this is awful. We should not be doing this. They regret it. They just have this sense of deep regret. And I remember talking to my dad about certain drugs that he had used early in his cardiology career, that he just felt like, oh man, I wish I had never done that to that, you know, to these patients.
Talking about statins?
Well, before statins, there were some antihypertensives, and there were some, so statins are relatively, I think we were, we'll get into this, and you and me will talk about it later, but there were some drugs that were, and they were also combo drugs that shouldn't have been combined, things that led to hyperglycemia, and became, you know, dangerous to certain patients. Amiodarone, one of those things. So that's that sense of accountability that many people have. I'm not seeing that from Louis Gohmert or from, like, you know, these people who have tested positive that told their staff not to wear a mask around them. There's a sheriff down in Florida that says, you know, if you're going to enter my sheriff's office, take your mask off. I mean, what the, you know, come on, man. Just at least at a certain point, you need to put aside your own, you know, ego, right? But these people, but thankfully they're a tiny, tiny minority. They are a tiny minority.
Super vocal though. It's very frustrating to deal with these groups.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with to be very political right now is my problem with someone like Scalise is to go back into Congress having suffered like that and still not put his vote forward for gun control and, you know, mental health and all that stuff.
And going back, like,
I don't know how you do that.
It's 35 years now since Reagan was shot. So going back to the folks that were around that and did get critically injured and killed.
Yes.
Look at the ideologies that they had previous to this instance, this devastating attack on Reagan, and what happened to the folks around him. They did rally around forms of gun control, not you know, radical ideas, just some gun control to help with certain types of gun purchases. You know, their minds were changed. I don't know that with this tribalism, yeah, Brady, absolutely. But the tribalism that we see today, that there is going to be this type of thinking, hard thinking about the situations people face.
Yeah, that's true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is a little past 9:30. I think we've shut down our Facebook, but does anyone have any other contributions before we bid you good night?
I'd like to say something.
Yes, please go ahead. Please.
So I think we all share the same frustration, but I would like to hear what we can do and as individuals and encourage other individuals to do to help turn this pandemic around in our country, other than voting, of course. Any thoughts on that?
I have a thought.
I have very practical ideas, and I've been sharing them about, you know, testing and living in a bubble and all that other stuff.
I think what we're doing.
Yeah, stay away from people who are unsafe. Though their ideology is poisonous, and if you have to be around them, keep as far away as bodily possible. I work with a lot of Republicans and anti-maskers, It's actually one of the company policies to wear a mask now, and they fight it.
Yep.
You know, and there I am, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
That's all you can do.
Now, Chai, are you talking about some sort of overarching ethos that we can all adopt that is going to get us out of this faster? Or are you talking about things that are very practical? Because if you're talking about things that are very practical, I think, you know, like Terry mentioned, you just stay away from people that you don't know. It's an unfortunate circumstance that we're all in, that we have to live like this for a period of time until other strategies are available, like ubiquitous rapid testing and a vaccine, and perhaps a set of therapeutic remedy, you know, in a hospital scenario that that renders COVID less deadly and less detrimental in terms of the morbidities that it can create in those who get sick. Those are things that I and my colleagues in biomedical science, I promise you on our behalf, that we're working on them every day. I swear we are. I mean, we are. None of us want this over more than we do. We don't want to see more deaths. We don't want to see more illness. We don't want to see more of this at all. And it's hurting our families. It's hurting all of us, but let's forget about that. So that's the practical stuff. Then the overarching ethos of how we handle this as a nation, I'll invite help from everybody else here, but is, I hope, going to be led by a bit of a societal shift that comes from the leadership that we hear every day. Okay? So if we start to hear, I know I saw it when after Obama was elected, the country was in a deep sense of dread. Okay? The wars, the loss of life from our soldiers fighting 2 wars, the economic crisis, our 2 automakers about to go under, our largest insurer, Wall Street, our credit markets frozen. I don't know if you remember about that, but for some time, it was horrific, and people were scared, very scared, that they were being warned that we wouldn't have bread and milk on the shelves because the credit was frozen and people needed credit to buy enough inventory to put on shelves. Then there was a shift in the voices we heard every day. It wasn't Bush and his people, it was Obama and his people. It was a very different message. It was hopeful. It was slow and strategic. It was steady. And the nation grew out of climbed out of the depths of that despair. So November can't come soon enough for me, because once those voices change that we hear every day, our behavior will probably change. Our moods will probably change. Our outlook will probably change. Not for everybody. In fact, I do anticipate pretty horrible backlash if things go our way. But overall, that's the ethos of the approach is going to change. The country, from a strategic perspective, all the way down, is going to have a new perspective on how to end this. That's my opinion.
And I think
I appreciate hearing that. You know, we've gained a lot of knowledge from your weekly town halls, and yes, there are certainly things that we do as individuals. It does sound, though, that a lot is hinging on the election in November, about how that things will hopefully improve a lot then. And I just want to thank you and your group again. Thanks.
Very welcome. We're very happy to have you, and we really appreciate the feedback that what we're doing is worthwhile. So,
the thing that makes this special is the people who join in on it. It's not It's not that, there's great insight. You guys bring your insight into us, and that makes that special.
Very much so.
And Chai, I mentioned this last week. I don't know if you were here last week with my ex. So I took months of talking to my ex about my daughter going to school and doing distance learning and stuff, or back to the school thing. And it took months of working with somebody that is open to change and analyzing data. She's not a severe right. She's very anti-Trump, but she's an educator and wants our daughter in a school, which I totally understood. So it took months of just slowly turning and presenting data and presenting the videos to these COVID casts, and especially the educator one, is the one that she watched, and talking to them and just slowly changing that viewpoint to understanding, what your train of thought is. It worked. She called me yesterday and thanked me for convincing her to do distance learning. After seeing the emails that the school system's sending out now and seeing parent feedback, I didn't expect any thank yous. I was just ecstatic that my daughter was signed up for distance learning.
Yeah.
But to get a thank you, yesterday, and just that slow turning and trying to get somebody to come to your understandings, it really does work with some people. Not saying I can go talk to an anti-masker and get them to understand things, but some people are open.
So there's one outstanding. I'm glad you shared that with us, and I'm glad the story is the way it is with you and your family. I'll tell you who said this after I say it. So essentially, if I were to give Chai a slogan for the next few months, regardless of the election, it is that if you can convince people to take more responsibility now, then they can anticipate greater freedom sooner.
Yep.
Okay. So that means if you can really commit to wearing a mask for the next 2 weeks in your community, or for the next month, keep a clean mask, keep the discipline of using a mask in public, then you're going to see really amazing things happen for your community. And if we all do it, that means sports comes back sooner. That means events and other things, gatherings and family and parties and all of this stuff comes back sooner. The longer you take to deliberate for yourself whether these things work or not, because they do, we know that, but if you have concerns, try it anyway and see what happens, because you are going to either suffer detriment if you don't do it, but you're going to gain your freedoms back sooner if you do it. Because this came to me after JJ talked to us, and he said, you can't keep telling people don't. You have to give them something something that they could do and gain a reward from. So I think that makes sense. Football is the #1 motivator for me. That I help with that I give to other people to stay motivated. I love football too. So, all right.
Well, it's neutral and it's shared, so
yeah.
That sort of brings you.
Go Bears!
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I love you all. Be well,
Guys.
and I'll see you again. Okay.
Hey, Sanjay, when are we going to get together and talk?
You can call me tomorrow night. Call me
Okay.
tomorrow around the same time. Okay.
All right. Very
All right.
good. All righty.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.